Imagine if you had a digital assistant that was on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. How much more efficient do you think it will be? I'm here to tell you that you do have access to this digital assistant in the form of artificial intelligence, specifically ChatGPT. I know there are a lot of videos out there about how to use ChatGPT, but what I found was that there was a lack in content regarding how healthcare workers specifically can benefit from using ChatGPT. That's why in today's video, I'll be giving 3 ways that you can use ChatGPT to your advantage and why it will benefit you in the long run if you're in healthcare. So no more wasting time, let's get right into it. Hey, what's up you guys? My name is Christian. I'm a certified occupational therapist and my job is to help people live independent and fulfilling lives. On this channel, we discuss real life lessons that can help you level up in the game of life. Now, I have about 5 years of experience in the healthcare industry, and the one thing that I realized is a lot of healthcare workers, they are aware of the existence of ChatGPT, but they don't really understand how to utilize it, how to really use it to their advantage. And it's kind of ironic because as healthcare workers, we have a very unique skill that helps us actually utilize ChatGPT to its full potential, and that is our documentation process. Now, if you're a healthcare worker, you would know that one of the skills you have to have is the ability to describe things in detail in writing. And the reason for this is because if you work in healthcare, it is extremely important that you are able to detail out, to actually describe what exactly happened in the treatment or in the future plan of care that you plan to actually implement in order for legal purposes, liability purposes. And this is so important because ChatGPT is essentially a text-based chatbot, and the way we interact with this is by typing things out in the chat and asking it questions. That's why the more detailed, the more specific your questions are to the artificial intelligence, the more specific and accurate the replies will be from ChatGPT. That's why as healthcare workers, because we have honed this ability to describe things in detail, it'll almost be instinct to ask it very specific questions in order to get the answers that we want. And I don't think a lot of healthcare workers have experimented with this enough. That's why I'm going to give you 3 ways that you can utilize ChatGPT in order to help you be a little more productive or just help you do your day-to-day tasks in your job a lot better. So the first way you can utilize ChatGPT is by helping you brainstorm. Now, as healthcare workers, you likely have a lot of ideas you're trying to implement when it comes to treating the patient or helping them get better. And essentially, we always wish that we had someone to just bounce our ideas off, And often this is going to be co-workers, but if you're by yourself, often you just simply have to just trust your gut and go with it. With ChatGPT now, you can really brainstorm and structure out your ideas by utilizing this artificial intelligence. And depending on your profession, I know there's a lot of healthcare professions, you have to be specific on what exactly you need, what you're trying to accomplish, and that way you're going to get the responses that you need to actually, do your job effectively. So to give you guys an example, I'm an occupational therapist and I work in the rehab department, and my job is to help people recover after they went through a stroke, surgery, any sort of medical diagnosis in order to help them be more independent and live their day-to-day lives. So of course, you can apply this concept here to any specific profession, depending on what kind of healthcare profession you work in. You have to be more specific on what exactly you need, and that's going to generate different answers for you. Say I'm working with a stroke patient and I'm trying to figure out different ideas on how I'm going to work with them. Well, I can write something like this here. Imagine you're an occupational therapist and have to treat a patient who just had a stroke. They have weakness in their left hand and are unable to stand without assistance. Additionally, they also have cognitive deficits that can make sequencing tasks difficult. Please give me 5 treatment ideas I can implement in the early stages of their recovery. And once I hit enter over here, ChatGPT essentially starts generating ideas, and keep in mind, this is simply brainstorming, right? We're not following it to a T, but we're utilizing our clinical knowledge while also brainstorming and seeing what ChatGPT is coming up with. That way we can help kind of bounce ideas around and organize our thoughts in order to start implementing our plan. So you can kind of see ChatGPT is already coming up with some ideas right here. So upper limb strengthening and dexterity exercises, even gives a nice description, sitting and standing balances, cognitive exercises, functional task practice, sensory integration, and proprioceptive training. Now, all these things here, you can likely get them by looking up online, through textbooks, and maybe you even have this knowledge up here in your head. But what ChatGPT helps you do is that it helps put things up here onto text-based writing, so you can actually see what you're thinking and actually, follow through up. Like, is this something that you can implement? Is this something you can implement? And you can kind of modify stuff a little bit more. And say you don't like what it asks you, then you can ask like, can you help me come up with 5 more? and it just simply helps you brainstorm a little bit more. So always remember that ChatGPT is a tool. You shouldn't rely on it, but you can utilize it to help you do your job a lot better by brainstorming more ideas. So if you're a doctor trying to come up with different treatment plans, or nurses trying to figure out how you're going to actually be a little more productive on the floor, you can come up with any sort of questions to ask it. Just make sure you specify what exactly that you do and what you're trying to accomplish. And that there is number one. Now the second way that ChatGPT can help you out is by helping you organize your thoughts. One thing about healthcare workers is we tend to write a lot of stuff, but a lot of it kind of gets pretty messy and jumbled up. There's like paragraphs of stuff to actually read. And the one thing that ChatGPT does so well is by helping us organize stuff so it looks nice and neat and easy to understand. So to give you guys an example, I'm kind of carrying forward from our last exercise here. It's still, we're trying to treat this same stroke patient, but essentially right now I want to organize it in a way that I can start implementing this plan of care, right? So this is what I ask it, and keep in mind that ChatGPT is keeping track of what you're actually asking it. So right now in this chat box, it understands that I'm an occupational therapist and I'm trying to treat this patient who recently had a stroke, and there's all these ideas right now already listed down. So now what I'm going to ask it is, I'm going to say like, that's awesome. Now can you help me come up with a 6-week program utilizing a combination of these ideas? My goal is to ensure that they can care for themselves at home independently and safely. Organize these points into bullet points to ensure they are easy to read and implement. So I'm specifying that I want it in bullet points and it's easy to understand. So once I hit enter, it starts generating these ideas right here, right? So it's helping me kind of visualize how the 6 weeks are going to go. Now, am I going to implement it exactly how it sits here? No, of course, right? I'm a clinical professional. You're probably a clinical professional as well if you're a healthcare worker watching this right now. So you need to utilize your knowledge in order to tweak this to your advantage. But this at least lets me see it, right? Like, all right, so week 1, I'm going to do these exercises. Week 2, I can probably progress to these. Week 3, week 4, and so forth. So it helps you kind of organize stuff, and keep in mind that this is just the tip of the iceberg, right? Depending on what you have to do in your day-to-day professions, maybe you have to document the processes of, a lot of different disciplines. Maybe you're a doctor who has to specify exactly, what each discipline is doing. You can start asking it like, hey, can you organize all this information into what each specific department, each specific individual has to be in charge of? You can ask it to, make sure that you break things down into 5 specific points, to bullet points, organize it into different categories. There's just so much potential right here, but just understand that organization is one of ChatGPT's most unique advantage. And for someone who's terrible at organization skills, I have a lot of ideas up here, but everything's kind of in a mess, it's jumbled up. It's such a powerful tool in order to actually make things a lot more clearer so people understand. Because the one thing that people tend to neglect is that sometimes keeping things simple, keeping things organized is so powerful, because when you're working with patients, when you're working with other individuals, even peer-to-peers, right, in the healthcare industry, people crave organization so much. When things are messy, when they're difficult to understand, it is so difficult to implement it. It doesn't really feel good to read the documentation, but when it's nice and organized, when things are laid out really nice, then that way everything goes smoothly. So organization is really something that I think a lot of healthcare workers can benefit from, and utilizing ChatGPT to actually take advantage of that can be a very powerful tool if you start to brainstorm on ideas how you can actually utilize this to your advantage. And the third way that ChatGPT can help you out in the healthcare field is to help you simplify things. Now, for some reason in the medical field, everything sounds a lot more complicated than it has to be. And one of the things that we learn is that when we're communicating with our patients, which just regular people, you want to simplify your language so it's easy to understand, as to not complicate them and make them anxious based on what you're trying to explain to them. So the one thing that I found that ChatGPT does really well is to help you simplify and really condense all this complex information into something that is easy to understand. So now that I've come up with this 6-week plan on how to actually treat this stroke patient, now I can ask it to kind of summarize everything, so that way the patient knows why they have to follow through it and what to expect throughout this 6-week plan. So this is what I was going to ask it. Now, help me simplify all this information to help educate the patient on what to expect through these 6 weeks and the importance of following through with the program. Keep this brief and avoid complicated medical terminology. And then all I have to do is hit enter over here. And then it starts coming up with a little summary of everything. And keep in mind, you can do this for everything, not just plan of care. So you can do this for medical articles, research articles, really complicated documents. The one thing that you do have to keep in mind though is that ChatGPT tends to store all of the information in it. So because of, HIPAA, which is essentially the privacy of our patients, you can't put specific details on each patient. So keep that in mind when you're utilizing this tech here. But if you're trying to come up with a quick summary on what to actually tell them, what to expect week by week, this can can be something that you ask it to summarize, and you can print this out and you can provide this to the patient. So every week they're going to know what to expect, and this is going to help you, well, implement the things a lot better. And the patient, they're going to have a lot more satisfaction because they know, what they're doing it for, why it's benefiting them. And this is really going to help their treatment processes. Of course, this is very specific to rehab stuff, occupational therapy, but I just wanted to show you, as someone who is in the healthcare industry, how it can help you. Now, I don't want you to focus too much on the specific examples that I give, but I want you to think of the bigger picture, right? The three main ways: to brainstorm, to organize, to simplify. This can be applied to many different areas, many different topics, and many different professions in healthcare. Whether you're a doctor, nurse, speech therapist, physical therapist, whatever it is, you can utilize ChatGPT to help you do these three things: to brainstorm, organize, and simplify whatever it is that you have to do. Now, I do want to point out that a lot of people will have mixed reactions on utilizing artificial intelligence because, they'll probably think like, oh, you can't really use it because, you're the professional, you shouldn't rely on a robot to help you. But people need to understand that artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, is a tool. It's a tool to help you do your work a lot better. Because if you're able to delegate all the mundane tasks, all the documentation, all the brainstorming and stuff to something that can do it a lot more efficiently than you, then you can focus a little bit more on what you are good at by creatively implementing all this information, by helping you actually communicate with the patient a bit better, by brainstorming better ideas on how you're going to treat these patients. Because at the end of the day, your task is to do your job as best as you can, and you have to utilize the tools to your advantage. And guess what? If you don't utilize the tools to your advantage, there will be other people who are going to utilize it, and that's going to make you less efficient as a whole. So I really wanted to get this information out because I saw a lot of healthcare professions tend to not really understand how to use it, tend to kind of shy away from using artificial intelligence. But in time, this technology will get better, it will improve, and it's almost essential that we have to somehow implement it in order to do our best work. So I really hope all this information does help you out. And if you did, make sure you smash that like button, and even better yet, leave a comment below on what exactly you want to hear next about artificial intelligence. I'm just trying to get a feel on what exactly, my audience really needs, especially when it comes to the healthcare people here, because I just want you guys to do your best work related to not just your patients, but yourself as well, so that way you can live the lives that you truly desire. So that's about it for the video. Thank you so much for watching, and if you did, go ahead and check out this video over here on the 5 steps on how you can multiply your income working in healthcare. And surprise, surprise, it utilizes ChatGPT, artificial intelligence as well. That's about it. Thank you very much, and to the very next one. Take care. Peace.